Are you exhausted from feeling something that refuses to die, no matter how hard you try to shut it down? Are you confused by this invisible pull towards someone who feels both impossibly distant and painfully close at the same time? You can feel it, can't you? That thread that never snapped, that connection that still hums in the dark even when everything in the physical world tells you the story is over. You're separated, you're in silence, and yet your soul keeps whispering that this isn't done. If that's your reality right now, this video isn't here to comfort your longing. It's here to wake you up to what's actually happening beneath the surface. Today, we're going to crack open the part of separation that no one ever explains, the part where everything you're feeling finally begins to make sense. This is where divine love stops being a fantasy and becomes an actual frequency shift. In this transmission, you will discover what is happening beneath the silence. How the divine masculine is being reshaped by the absence. How the divine feminine's surrender is quietly rewriting the entire connection, and why the universe is holding this pause for your protection, not your punishment. Nothing you've lived, the tears, the unanswered prayers, the ache has been wasted. Everything has been part of a divine synchronization you simply cannot see yet. By the time you reach the end of this message, you will not look at separation the same way ever again. You will understand that the distance between you is not empty. It is alive with purpose. You will feel why this moment is not about waiting, but about readiness, alignment, and soul-level timing. You will finally see why separation was never truly real, and why, when both energies stabilize into their highest frequency, the universe has no choice but to bring the two of you back together. If you've been searching for clarity, if you've been craving truth, this is the moment everything begins to click into place. Number 1. The painful space between. There comes a moment in every twin flame journey when the silence no longer feels like a pause, it becomes a presence. It hums in the background of your days, follows you into your nights, and wraps itself around your thoughts when you least expect it. Days begin to blur into weeks, and the distance between you starts to feel impossibly wide, almost like a lifetime has passed since the last moment of connection. And no matter how hard you try to detach, to reason with yourself, or to just move on, something within you refuses to let go. You cannot fully explain it to anyone. You simply sense, in a way that transcends logic, that the story between you is not finished. Something remains incomplete, unresolved, alive. This is the part of the journey no one warns you about: the liminal space, the sacred pause, the gap where nothing appears to be happening on the surface while everything is quietly rearranging itself beneath it. It is here, in this suspended moment, that your soul is stretched beyond its comfort, your patience is tested in ways you never imagined possible, and your faith is challenged at its roots. This in-between phase is where you are stripped of illusions, where false expectations dissolve, and where every layer of attachment reveals itself with startling clarity. It is uncomfortable, unsettling, and often emotionally exhausting, yet it is also the place where the deepest spiritual reconstruction occurs. Because separation in a twin flame connection is never simply about physical distance. It is not about someone walking away or choosing silence. It is an energetic surgery, a divinely orchestrated recalibration. The universe uses this pause to clear out every emotion, belief, pattern, and version of yourself that cannot coexist with the frequency of true divine love. You are being separated not from your person, but from the parts of you that loved from fear, chased from insecurity, begged for answers, or surrendered your worth in exchange for crumbs of connection. Divine love cannot grow in soil contaminated by desperation, attachment, or disbelief. So the universe uproots those energies with precision, even if the process feels harsh. When your twin pulls away, it is not a punishment, it is not abandonment, it is not rejection of you as a soul, it is refinement. It is your counterpart's soul whispering across the energetic bridge between you, saying, "You cannot meet me like this. Not with these wounds, not with this fear, not with this version of yourself. You must evolve first, and so must I." This pullback becomes the catalyst for transformation on both sides, forcing you inward so that you can rise in self-worth, sovereignty, and emotional clarity. In this painful space between, you are not losing your connection. You are being shaped by it. You are being prepared for the next stage of the journey, one where union is not built on longing, attachment, or emotional chaos, but on alignment, clarity, and spiritual maturity. What feels like stagnation is actually the universe preparing the foundation. What feels like loss is a spiritual clearing, and what feels like silence is the sound of divine orchestration unfolding behind the scenes, guiding both of you toward the versions of yourselves who can finally meet in wholeness. Before we move into the next section, I want you to take a moment and truly feel into what this space between is asking of you. This phase is not meant to break you, it is meant to prepare you. If anything in this message resonated, stirred something inside you, or helped you understand your journey more clearly, let me know in the comments. Share your thoughts, your experiences, or simply anchor your intention by typing "I choose alignment" below. And if these insights support your path, don't forget to like this video so more souls on the twin flame journey can find the clarity they need. Now, let's continue deeper into the next stage of your awakening. Number 2. The feminine's emotional awakening. For the divine feminine, this stage of the journey arrives like the sound of glass breaking, sudden, sharp, and impossible to ignore. It feels as though the inner mirror she once relied upon to understand herself, her masculine counterpart, and the connection as a whole has shattered into countless pieces. Every fragment reflects a different aspect of her inner world. She feels everything with heightened sensitivity, memories rising like old tides, dreams carrying messages she cannot yet decode, prayers whispered from a deeper place within her, and questions that seem to echo through her entire being. This emotional intensity is not random, it is the beginning of a profound awakening. During this stage, she becomes acutely aware of every pattern she once repeated, every fear she once carried, and every corner of her heart that remained unhealed. She analyzes not to obsess, but to understand the truth behind her triggers. She revisits past pain not to suffer, but to extract wisdom from it. She dreams not for escape, but because her intuition is expanding and guiding her into a higher timeline of self-realization. Even when she prays, she is not pleading for results. She is aligning her spirit with a greater divine intelligence that is reshaping her from the inside out. Yet beneath all of this emotional turbulence, something extraordinary is happening. Strength is quietly forming beneath her tears. A new foundation is being built under her feet. Each emotional wave that once overwhelmed her now becomes a teacher. The storm does not drown her, it refines her. She learns how to love without gripping, how to trust without demanding proof, and how to remain rooted in her own light, even during moments when the masculine seems distant, unavailable, or entirely absent. The absence itself becomes a sacred classroom, teaching her the difference between attachment and alignment, between longing and self-respect. This is where a deeper truth awakens inside her. Her emotions are not signs of weakness at all. They are her alchemical fire. They burn away illusion, ego, and outdated versions of herself that no longer serve the path ahead. Through this fire, she is gradually transformed into the embodiment of unconditional love. Not the kind that clings, compromises, or negotiates her worth, but the kind that radiates from a place of sovereignty. Her presence becomes steady and grounded. Her clarity sharpens, not through force, but through liberation from emotional dependency. She rises from this stage not as someone seeking validation, but as someone who has learned to validate herself. She no longer approaches love with fear, but with wisdom. She no longer reacts from insecurity, but responds from alignment. And she begins to understand the deeper purpose of this emotional awakening, to refine her into the purest expression of love, without attachment, presence without grasping, and truth without demand. Through this transformation, the divine feminine becomes an energetic lighthouse, unwavering, luminous, and deeply self-aware. And though she may feel alone in her emotional unraveling, she is in fact stepping into her highest power. The shattering was never the end. It was the beginning of her becoming. Number 3. The masculine's silent breakdown. For the divine masculine, silence does not simply arrive, it crashes into his life like an unexpected storm. While the divine feminine moves through emotional awakening, his experience is entirely different. He does not cry, reflect, or process in the same way she does. Instead, he runs. He plunges into distraction, noise, routines, work, or logic. He tries to drown out the ache with productivity or busyness, convincing himself that if he keeps moving, he will outrun the truth. He tells himself he has forgotten, that the connection was exaggerated, that he is fine without it. But the soul never forgets. It is in the quiet, unguarded hours, especially at night, when his truth surfaces. The distractions fade, the noise stops, and in that stillness, the connection calls him back with undeniable force. He feels a pull he cannot explain or rationalize. It manifests as restlessness, nostalgia, longing, or a hollow ache in his chest he cannot name. This discomfort is not a sign of weakness. It is the first crack in the armor he spent years building. It is the beginning of his awakening. The universe uses this silence strategically. It pauses the storyline not as punishment, but as protection. If two souls attempt to merge while carrying heavy imbalance, the union does not elevate them, it fractures them. The distance exists to prevent collapse. Silence becomes his sacred mirror. It forces him to see what he avoided, suppressed, or denied. The emptiness strips him of his usual coping mechanisms and brings him face to face with his own unfinished lessons. Piece by piece, he begins to realize that the things he once relied on no longer satisfy him. Success that once fed his ego now feels strangely hollow. Temporary connections that once distracted him suddenly feel meaningless. The independence he once prided himself on transforms into isolation. What he hoped would bring him peace instead collapses into a deep, haunting longing, not for your physical presence, but for your energy, your frequency. The version of him he became when connected to your light. This longing is not ordinary desire. It is sacred. It is not the ego calling you back. It is the soul guiding him toward authenticity. For the first time, he cannot run from the truth of the connection or from the truth of himself. His inner world begins to shift. The silence becomes a catalyst, pressing him to confront his shadows, examine old patterns, and question the life he built on survival rather than alignment. Each wave of longing teaches him that the comfort he once found in avoidance is no longer available. The universe is redirecting him from distraction toward depth, from denial toward awakening, from ego-driven choices toward soul-led clarity. His silent breakdown is not the end of the journey. It is where the masculine begins to wake up to the reality of who he is meant to become. And slowly, quietly, without telling anyone, he starts to change. Think of it like this. Imagine a man who once found comfort in his nightly routine, scrolling through his phone, watching videos, or losing himself in work until he fell asleep. But after the feminine pulls back her energy, that routine no longer works. He sits at his desk, staring at the same project he used to enjoy, and suddenly it feels empty. His friends invite him out, yet he feels strangely disconnected, as if something important is missing even in a crowded room. When he climbs into bed, expecting the usual peace of solitude, he instead feels an ache in his chest, a longing that appears out of nowhere. He rolls over, tries to sleep, tries to ignore it. But the silence only amplifies the truth. The world he built around distraction is collapsing. It's not her presence he is missing. It's the version of himself he lost when he stopped showing up for the connection. This is the moment the masculine begins to awaken, not through dramatic events, but through the quiet realization that nothing external can fill the space his soul is finally asking him to face. Number 4. The energetic reorganization. There comes a point in every twin flame journey when the external world seems to freeze, and all you can feel is delay, distance, or silence. Yet in the spiritual realm, nothing is stagnant. Every delay is intentional. Every silence is strategic. What feels like distance on the surface is, in truth, a profound energetic reorganization taking place beneath your awareness. The universe is not withholding movement. It is recalibrating both souls so they can meet each other on a higher, more aligned frequency. During this period, the karmic layers, emotional patterns, and unconscious behaviors that once defined the connection begin to dissolve. The energies between the counterparts subtly shift and exchange roles. The feminine, who once carried the emotional weight of the connection, now begins learning stability, groundedness, and neutrality. She steps into an inner strength that is not fueled by fear or longing, but by self-trust. She no longer reaches outward for reassurance. She becomes her own anchor. At the same time, the masculine enters a mirror process that challenges everything he once relied on for safety. Where he once led through logic, control, or emotional distance, he now confronts his own vulnerability. He learns, sometimes slowly, sometimes painfully, that the only way to rise in divine love is to open, soften, and feel. The feminine learns to rest in the frequency of unconditional love. The masculine learns to rise through it. Their lessons are not the same, but they are perfectly complementary. This transition does not follow a linear timeline. There is no countdown, no predictable sequence, no measurable milestone. Transformation within a twin flame connection occurs according to the rhythm of divine timing, and divine timing does not rush. It refines, it purifies, it perfects. The universe orchestrates each moment like a precise energetic choreography, ensuring that both souls release the old patterns that would sabotage union and step into the healed versions of themselves before they are brought back together. To the human mind, the waiting feels unbearable, but spiritually, the waiting is not empty at all. It is the fertile womb of creation, the sacred space where the next chapter is being quietly built from the inside out. What looks like stillness is actually construction. What feels like nothing is actually everything. This is the phase where the universe lays the blueprint for the reunion, prepares the emotional landscape, strengthens the feminine's sovereignty, and awakens the masculine's courage. If you find yourself in this period of energetic reorganization, know that you are not being abandoned or forgotten. You are being prepared. The connection is being cleared, balanced, and rebuilt at a frequency that can finally sustain the love you were always meant to share. The universe is not delaying your destiny, it is perfecting it. If you've made it this far, it means your soul recognizes this stage on a level that words can't fully capture. This is your reminder that you're not moving through this reorganization alone. Countless others in this collective are feeling the same shift, the same silence, the same inner restructuring. Take a moment to breathe into what resonated with you the most. Reflect on where you are in this process and how these energies are reshaping your path. If you feel called, share your story in the comments, so other souls can find comfort in your experience. Or simply anchor this transformation by typing, "I trust divine timing," as your affirmation. Your reflection isn't just for you, it strengthens the entire twin flame collective. Number 5. What silence is actually doing. Silence within a twin flame connection is never a void, nor is it a sign of abandonment. It is a deliberate, energetic recalibration. In the absence of words, the connection is quietly rearranging itself beneath the surface. Silence removes emotional interference, dissolves outdated patterns, and begins mending wounds that direct communication would only inflame. It acts as an invisible operating room for the soul, a place where healing can occur without the noise of expectation, narrative, or projection. What feels like distance is actually a refinement process, rebalancing both energies so that the next phase can unfold with clarity rather than chaos. For the divine feminine, this silence often registers as longing, uncertainty, or even emotional turbulence. She asks herself whether he remembers, whether he is aware, whether the bond still lives in him the same way it does in her. But this silence is not a puzzle for her to solve. It is not a message to decode or a behavior to interpret. Instead, this phase is designed for her to turn inward, to integrate her own lessons, and to strengthen the parts of herself that still attach her worth to his response or presence. Silence becomes her teacher. It reveals where she still reaches for control, where she clings to timelines, and where she unconsciously tries to steer the connection according to her expectations. In this quiet space, she learns sovereignty, the ability to stand whole, centered, and grounded, regardless of what the masculine is doing. She is guided to trust her own frequency, to refine her vibration, and to rise into a version of herself that no longer negotiates her value or her intuition. This is not passive waiting, this is energetic mastery. Silence invites her to release the impulse to chase alignment and instead become alignment herself. Before you continue reading, take a breath and check in with your body. If these words resonate with your soul and you can feel the truth vibrating through your chest, pause for a moment and type alignment in the comments to anchor this energy into your journey. Number 6. The masculine's emotional initiation. Number 6. The masculine's emotional initiation. For the divine masculine, silence does not feel neutral. It arrives like a consequence, an echo of everything he avoided, suppressed, or delayed. He attempts to rationalize it, to drown it out with logic, work, routine, or distraction. But the truth is unavoidable. Every attempt to escape only amplifies the silence. What he feels in that quiet is not punishment. It is remembrance. It is the soul pulling him back toward what he once numbed himself to feel. The ache rising within him is the awakening of memory of connection, responsibility, and the love he tried so hard to compartmentalize. As the silence thickens, the energetic roles begin to shift. The divine feminine stops reaching outward. She stops trying to fix, explain, or emotionally stabilize the connection. She withdraws her energy from the chase and anchors it into inner peace. And the moment she stands in that calm self-possession, something profound happens. The masculine begins to feel. The more she embodies her sovereignty, the more he becomes aware of what he is missing. The less she clings emotionally, the more vividly he remembers her soul. Her detachment becomes a mirror that reflects his unhealed places, pulling him toward the gravity of the bond. Silence also dismantles identity. Without the distraction of constant interaction, the masculine is confronted with himself. Illusions fall away, masks crack. Every wound, insecurity, and hidden fear rises to the surface, demanding to be acknowledged and integrated rather than buried. And through this emotional exposure, both counterparts begin learning not only what love is, but what love is not. They discover that love cannot grow in attachment, dependency, avoidance, fear, or egoic protection. It grows only where truth is allowed to breathe. The connection stabilizes only when both souls vibrate in coherence rather than survival mode. Silence creates the conditions for this alignment. It pulls the feminine into her power and pulls the masculine into his heart. Through the discomfort, both learn to rise out of fear. Number 7. The feminine's surrender and expansion. As the divine masculine confronts his awakening through silence, the divine feminine enters her next level of evolution through surrender. Her progress is not activated by effort, pursuit, or emotional labor. It is activated by release, by loosening her grip on the outcome and allowing the universe to guide what her mind once tried to control. In this stage, trust becomes her most powerful vibration, not blind trust, not naive optimism, but the embodied certainty that her soul is held, her path is protected, and her connection is orchestrated on a timeline higher than her expectations. This surrender transforms her into the stabilizing force of the connection. She no longer pushes the energy forward. Instead, she anchors it. She holds the field steady, while the universe rewrites the narrative in ways she cannot yet see. Her stillness becomes a form of clarity. Her peace becomes magnetic. The more she relaxes into her feminine essence, the more the connection reorganizes itself around her stabilized vibration. She becomes the lighthouse, not searching, not signaling, simply shining. Her surrender is not passive waiting. It is inner mastery. It is the moment she steps fully into her wholeness and recognizes her own alignment as the compass for everything else. She no longer looks to the masculine for reassurance. She no longer measures progress by physical interaction. Instead, she lives from the truth that she is already synchronized with her divine timeline. Her path is unfolding exactly as the soul intended. As the Gemini full moon approaches, the energetic invitation intensifies. The universe urges the feminine to release mental duality, the internal tug-of-war between fear and faith, hope and doubt, desire and surrender. Gemini energy amplifies overthinking, but it also offers a portal to clarity. In this moment, she is asked to choose one truth above all others: faith. Faith in the connection, faith in herself, faith in divine timing, faith in the unseen forces working relentlessly in her favor. Before we move forward, take a moment to breathe into everything you've just absorbed. Surrender is not an idea, it is an activation. And if you've felt its truth settling into your heart, that's your soul responding to this message. I want to invite you to reflect. Where in your journey have you been trying to force motion instead of allowing alignment? How has surrender begun reshaping your connection already? Share your experience in the comments, or if you prefer to anchor this shift silently, simply type, "I choose faith," to affirm your alignment before we step into the next stage of this transmission. Number 8. Detachment versus waiting. One of the most challenging lessons on the twin flame path is learning to distinguish between waiting and detachment. Although they may look similar on the surface, their energetic signatures could not be more different. Waiting is rooted in fear, longing, and the expectation that happiness will arrive only when the counterpart returns. It subtly communicates the belief that life is paused, incomplete, or on hold until reunion happens. This vibration slows the process, traps the feminine in emotional stagnation, and sends a signal to the universe that she has not yet stepped into her sovereignty. Detachment, however, arises from emotional freedom and inner wholeness. It is not coldness or indifference. It is the quiet understanding that love is not lost simply because the connection is silent, and that reunion does not determine her worth or her destiny. Detachment says, "I am whole now. I am complete in myself." It reflects alignment rather than fear. Through detachment, the feminine stands firmly in her purpose, her truth, and her self-trust, and this stability becomes the magnetic force that reshapes the dynamic. The moment she stops waiting and begins living fully, everything shifts. Her frequency becomes expansive rather than contractive. Her attention returns to her own path, her mission, her healing, her joy, her evolution. This expansion creates the energetic space necessary for the masculine to awaken, recalibrate, and move toward her. Detachment accelerates union because it removes pressure, dissolves fear-based attachment, and restores balance on both sides of the connection. Waiting delays the journey. Sovereignty invites alignment. When the feminine claims her wholeness, the universe responds. Doors open, synchronicities increase, momentum builds, and the connection begins to reorganize itself around her empowered energy. It is not her longing that activates union, it is her liberation. If you are claiming your sovereignty, type sovereignty in the comments to anchor it. Number 9. Divine timing and the sacred pause. The sacred pause is one of the most misunderstood phases of the twin flame journey. It is often perceived as abandonment, punishment, or cosmic silence. Yet in truth, it is divine protection. The universe does not withhold union out of cruelty. It withholds union to prevent a premature connection from collapsing under the weight of unhealed wounds, unresolved karmic patterns, or imbalanced energy. The pause is the universe's way of safeguarding the foundation of what will eventually become an unshakable bond. As we move toward the winter solstice and the Capricorn new moon, a powerful energetic window opens. These cosmic forces carry the frequency of structure, discipline, maturity, and soul-level accountability. This season requires both divine counterparts to step into a higher degree of emotional mastery, self-ownership, and spiritual responsibility. The energy of Capricorn does not tolerate shortcuts or superficial alignments. It asks for depth, stability, and unwavering commitment. For many twin flame pairs, this period becomes a turning point, a moment where the universe quietly asks, "Are you truly ready? Are you aligned not just in desire, but in discipline?" Divine timing is not random. It operates through energetic checkpoints, moments designed to evaluate your frequency, your emotional responses, and your readiness to hold the connection without slipping back into fear or attachment. These tests do not appear to punish you, they appear to refine you. When you respond with peace instead of panic, self-trust instead of desperation, and alignment instead of expectation, the cycle naturally concludes. The universe recognizes your readiness and begins unlocking the next phase of the journey. The sacred pause ends only when both souls can meet in coherence rather than chaos. Your calm is the signal, your stability is the invitation, your alignment is the key that opens the next door. Number 10. Returning to your divine self. Number 10. Returning to your divine self. Everything you have felt, questioned, resisted, or feared throughout this journey was never evidence of separation. It was the initiation of your transformation. What your mind labeled as distance was, in truth, a dismantling of old patterns. What your heart perceived as abandonment was the universe clearing the space for a higher, more authentic version of you to emerge. Every moment of silence, every wave of uncertainty, every night you questioned the connection, all of it was part of the sacred alchemy designed to bring you home to yourself. The distance between you did not push you apart. It stripped away the illusions you once clung to. It pulled outdated beliefs to the surface. It revealed the parts of you that were loving from fear, attaching from insecurity, or seeking from lack. The silence was not emptiness. It was restructuring your energetic blueprint so you could stand in your truth without relying on external validation. What felt like loss was actually a recalibration of your inner world. Separation exists only in the physical realm in time, space, and circumstance. On the level of the soul, there has never been distance. Your connection has never been severed, not for a moment. The energetic bond remained active, alive, and evolving, even when the physical story seemed to pause. While your ego cried out for answers, your soul was quietly completing a metamorphosis that words could not explain. You were not being abandoned, you were being rebuilt. The universe was removing everything that diluted your power and obscured your purpose. You were shedding outdated versions of yourself so that your divine identity could rise without distortion. This journey has never been about losing your counterpart. It has always been about meeting yourself at a level you had never touched before. You were not losing love. You've arrived at the end of this transmission, but not the end of what is awakening within you. If something in this message stirred your heart, opened your intuition, or reminded you of a truth you had forgotten, honor that feeling. It means your soul is remembering. It means you are aligning with the version of yourself who always knew this path was sacred. This journey is not random. You didn't find this message by accident. You were guided here by your higher self, by your inner wisdom, or by the pull of your own destiny, because you were ready to hear what was spoken today. You were ready to rise into clarity, wholeness, and remembrance. As you breathe in this moment, let it integrate, let it settle, let it reshape the way you see your connection, your healing, and your divine path. And if this transmission touched your soul, type the quote, "I remember who I am," in the comments to anchor this activation into your energy field. Your engagement isn't just support, it is participation in your own transformation. So if this resonated, please like this video, share it with someone who may need this clarity, and subscribe to continue walking this path of awakening with us. Your single act of sharing could be the spark that illuminates another soul's journey. Keep shining your light, even when the world feels dark. Keep trusting your peace, even when the story seems unfinished. The universe is weaving every thread of your experience, every pause, every silence, every realization into your divine destiny. Thank you for being here. Thank you for choosing healing when fear was easier. Thank you for remembering your truth. I'll see you in the next transmission, and until then, let your soul lead.